welcome back to Room 1-on-1 from the Homeboys. It's our first since that evening in Dortmund, which I hope never to be reminded of ever again. But next up after the international break is a massive game for both teams, as Aberdeen travel to Glasgow for the first time this season with a fantastic 13 wins from 13 games. I am delighted to welcome back Gavin Baxter from the ABZ Football Podcast back to the show to tell us a wee bit more about his guest. So Gav, how are you, pal?
I'm very well, thank you, Scott. Thank you very much for having me back on the show. Delighted to be here and delighted to be talking about Aberdeen FC in a completely new light in comparison to when we spoke last April. And I offer no promises that I will not bring up the Dortmund result.
Right, okay, right. So we'll just can it now then. As you can see, like all this Dortmund stuff, this is all getting binned very shortly. Right, so first meeting of the season, so you're long in the tooth, you know the script here. We're going to have a wee look back at last season before we go and have a look at what's happening this season, right?
Sure.
So fresh from being appointed full-time manager on 1st of May 2023, Barry Robson took the team into the season after his spell in charge after replacing Jim Goodwin. He managed a third place finish and a Europa League playoff place. Now, league-wise, didn't start great. Took till match day 6 and a 4-0 home win to Ross County before Aberdeen would rack up a league win, losing to Celtic, Hibs and Hearts, as well as dropping points in both Livingston and Paisley. Followed that up with a 3-1 win against Rangers at Ibrox. During that period, Aberdeen came up against BK Häcken of Sweden in the aforementioned Europa League playoff. 2-2 draw in Gothenburg was a decent result, but a 3-1 reverse at home saw them drop into Europa Conference League group paired with Eintracht Frankfurt, HJK and PAOK. But more of that in a minute. Now, league-wise, it didn't really get much better than that win over Rangers. Until the end of January, the team sat in 8th position, 6 wins, 7 draws, 10 defeats from the 24 games played, 27 goals scored, 27 conceded, 2 points, half Hibs and 7. Now, in the League Cup, Barry Robson oversaw wins against Stirling Albion 2-1, Ross County 2-1, and a 1-0 Hampden win over Hibs to take the team back to Hampden and play Rangers on the 17th of December. 76-minute James Tavernier goal was enough to win a lacklustre League Cup final. We spoke about that last year. No use fucking going over. In Europa, it was a case of what could have been narrow defeats to Frankfurt and PAOK and a 3 draws with HJK home and away and an away to PAOK. So Aberdeen already out before the final match at home to Frankfurt, but the team still finished the group style with a nice 2-0 win and finished the group in 3rd place, 6 points on board, 3 behind the Germans in 2nd, further 10 behind group winners PAOK. Right, now, again, we've spoken about this, so there's no point labouring on it, but just to kind of remind people that this actually did fucking happen. On the 31st of January of this year, in what seemed a yearly occurrence, Aberdeen fired their manager. Peter Levin returned as intern and immediately got the new manager bounced with a 1-1 draw at home to Celtic, when the team could really call themselves unlucky not to take all 3 points. The club then made the bold and not a small bit silly move to appoint Neil Warnock as interim coach for the remainder of the season. I'm sorry to bring this all back up.
I'll make a deal with you. Okay, I won't mention Dortmund if you just gloss over what you're about to talk about.
Right. So Warnock, blah, 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 right? And then he's got Shotton. And he's got to the semi-final against Celtic on the 20th of April. Despite that good, right, blah, 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 right. So anyway. Levin finished the season particularly well, despite being in the bottom half of the league, which obviously is a wee bit. So the 1-0 defeat to Dundee on the 13th of March would be Aberdeen's final league defeat of the season, as Levin overseen 6 wins and 3 draws in the remainder of the league campaign, as Aberdeen finished in 7th place, 6 points ahead of 6th place Dundee and 2 points ahead of 8th place Hibs. 38 games played, 12 wins, 12 draws, 14 losses, 48 goals scored, 52 conceded, 48 points on board. In the Scottish Cup, it was nervy stuff, and despite scoring 3 times, Aberdeen would eventually lose out 6-5 on penalties. So there's that season over, right? Like I said, we spoke in April, so there's no need to fucking delve into the old stuff. But if we talk about the Peter Levin stuff, now, as a team who appointed Barry Robson on the back of some good results.
Uh-huh.
I suppose the Jimmy Taylor appointment early doors kind of saved you for that part of the game in the summer, because at least you knew something was changing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was always the case when there was ever a circumstance where Peter Leaving was going to be considered for the job, no matter how well he did. And make no mistake, given what had gone before him, Peter Leaving did an incredible job and continues to be an integral part of our setup. I'm so happy that he's decided to still see his future at Aberdeen through the summer with the new Jimmy Tulane era. There's been interest from Wraith Rovers and St Johnstone. He's knocked both back, and I'll be delighted if he can at least stay here for the remainder of this season, because I think he is such a key figure in the kind of transition between where we were and where we are now with Jimmy Tulane. Yeah, just incredible stuff. But I think the club always knew that we had to go in a different direction, and the fans were calling for that. We talked about it at the time in April about. I looked back at it. We talked on. So your show was published on the 15th of April, and we announced Jimmy Tulane as manager on the 16th of April.
That's right.
So it was obviously a case. Yeah, it was also a case that we kind of knew it was coming. It was a matter of when, not if. And we talked about how there have been other potential candidates lined up, primarily by the pundits in the west of Scotland, trying to get their mates jobs as per. And the reaction from the Aberdeen support to particularly Michael O'Neill was pretty unanimous that that's not what we want to do. We, contrary to a few vox pops outside Pittodrie, we didn't want Neil Lennon. We needed to go in a different direction and try something new, and we were calling for something fresh, and Jimmy Tulane is exactly what that was. And credit to the club, which is not something I've said all that often in the past 3 seasons, but even though we got knocked back to begin with, we stuck at it when eventually
Jimmy
got our man.
Knocked you back?
Initially, yes. We went back. I don't exactly know what we offered that sweetened the deal, but later in the day, he was our man.
Excellent. So you've literally just going to bring it up anyway. So the summer, the new manager time again, 46-year-old Swedish coach Jimmy Tulane was recruited by the club from Elfsborg in the Swedish League. He was actually appointed on the 16th of April, as you just said, but he didn't start until June and signed a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
In his time with the Swedish club, he maintained a top league status and finished in 8th, 2nd, 4th, 6th, and again last season in 2nd. So, I mean, we're a good few weeks down the line now. You must be overly impressed by the impact he's made. I mean, is that an understatement?
It's been incredible, absolutely. I think when he came in, we knew the scale of the challenge that faced him, and we're not a club that's flush with limitless amounts of cash where we can bring in any number of players that he wants and completely turn over the squad again. We've done that for the past 3-4 seasons of these massive turnarounds.
Wastage,
yeah, exactly. And I think we expected that maybe he'd have to work with some players that maybe are not necessarily part of the long-term thinking and make do with what he can. And it'll be a 3-4 window job to get the team up to where he wants it to be. Like you say, still early days, and we haven't put together, per se, the complete performance yet. I think there's still a long way for this team to grow. But, I mean, 13 wins out of 13, you can't ask for any better than that.
You literally can't.
I know that Sports Scene and Sportsline like to say we haven't been tested yet, which we have had definitely a beneficial fixture list so far with the League Cup, the way it's drawn out, and the way the fixture computer decided on our first opening 7 games in the league. But I don't really know what they want us to do about that.
Yeah,
we can't really turn around and just say, well, actually, no. Can we just have Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts away in our first 3 games just to get a little test and see where we are?
I'll stall you on that one because I have got an opinion, as you'll be amazed to know. But right, so we'll fire through. You spoke about he's not had this big bag of money thrown at him, but he's the signings he's made, certainly on inspection, have all been good signings. But so anyway, we'll rattle through these, same as always, right? So outs is first. So Aaron Reid, the young striker, signed for Airdrie. Johnny Hayes retired, subsequently joined Celtic youth coaching team. Kai Watson joined Huntly. Connor Barron saw his contract signed with Rangers. Kieran Nguena joined Dunfermline. Finlay Murray departed for Cove Rangers. Kelly Roos, the former number 1, joined Triestina in Italy. Junior Hoylett couldn't agree a new deal signed with Hibs. Jaden Richardson left for Bournemouth. You eventually get rid of Anthony Stewart on a permanent as he fucked off to Ebbsfleet. Christophe Gondoli and Ruben Smiley departed without sealing deals as of yet, and they've all left with free transfers. The big out, however, was Bojan Miovski, securing a move to the Spanish Primera Division and high-flying Girona for a fee said to be around 6.8. Is that correct?
I believe that's what it is, yeah.
Because Transfermarkt are hilarious with their fees. They said it was like 2.7 or something, but anyway.
7 undisclosed, as they always are these days.
The famous undisclosed.
7 million euros, I believe, is a pretty accurate.
Brilliant. Miovski was signed in 2022 for MTK Budapest for around 650 grand, scored 44 goals in 98 matches in that 2-year spell. Wow. Fly through Tom Ritchie, Adam Elmsley, Finlay Marshall, Blair McKenzie, Ryan Duncan, Ryan Jensen, Alfie Babbage secured loans to Bonnyrigg Cove, Montrose, Queen's Park, Velgie and Ayr United respectively, while Dylan Lobin got his own half-season loan at Cove as well. Right, so big ones, ins. So a mainstay straight away, Gavin Malloy, 22-year-old Irish defender, was signed from Shelburne for around 75 grand. 75-year-old Nigerian forward Peter Ambrose was picked up from Uzbekistan for an undisclosed fee. Another undisclosed fee was agreed for standout keeper 27-year-old Bulgarian international Dimitar Mitov. 33-year-old veteran centre mid Sivert Helt Nielsen was picked up for 300 grand from Brann, reunited with Tallinn after his spell at Elfsborg together. Ant Palaversa, a 24-year-old Croatian under-21 defensive midfielder cap, was brought in from Troyes for another undisclosed fee. Now, the former Hajduk Split player was signed by Man City for around €7 million. Never really making the breakthrough there. Spent the last few years floating about on loan before heading to Troyes. And finally, 21-year-old Finnish winger Top Keskinen was picked up for around 900 grand from HGK. He's a full Finnish international. The club also signed Scotland international forward Kevin Nisbet after admittedly a dismal spell in England on a season-long loan from Millwall. After making the £2 million move from Hibs, he scored only 5 times in 30 games and he'll be looking to get himself back in action. Right, so I think you've seen everybody, maybe bar Ambrose. Mm-hmm. Are you happy with the ins? Are you happy? Well, I would say the outs. The outs are fine, apart from Miovski. You'd love to keep them, but we know where we are.
Yeah.
So you must be happy with the signings that have come in. And is there anything you're kind of missing?
Oh, I mean, yeah, of course. We're like I said earlier, we're nowhere near the finished article, and I think we could have used some more depth, particularly in the defensive areas, right back, wing back, left side, and also perhaps even in the centre. But on the whole, Peter Ambrose is probably the one player who's not made much of an impact yet. Definitely seems like a bit of a project player and maybe one for the future. Otherwise, the players you mentioned have come in and made an immediate impact. We spoke about the recruitment in April from the season prior, and it was disastrous. You're talking there about Richard Jensen, the Finnish international, who's been punted out on loan because we didn't see a place for him, and he's now playing in the Danish league for the team that are rooted to the bottom. So that speaks volumes there. Kellerus, I've shed no tears when Kellerus departed these shores. And
because initially he looked the part. Like, I've spoke to you several times, and I don't know why, but I had a thing for Joe Lewis. I thought Joe Lewis was a great goalkeeper. But he took a massive. It was just one day, he just went and fell off a cliff. And I thought Roos looked the part in the first 2 games, but then see when you're playing Anthony Stewart, I don't think it's unfair with the boy, you know what I mean? I'm glad that you thought he was good after 2 games because I didn't. No, okay, there you go. It just shows you, didn't it?
It was when Robson came in and we went on that pretty insane run and he had Scales, McDonald, and Pollock in front of him, with Shinnie and Ramadani as the screens. And at that point, it looked like he'd put everything together. I've said this many times on our show. If you were to build a goalkeeper from the ground up, he will look something like Kelle Roos because he's got everything. 6'6", he's agile, but just never put it together. And I mean, I noticed pretty early on in his Aberdeen career that as a goalkeeper at penalties, he is probably the smallest, least imposing 6'6" goalkeeper you've ever seen play the game. So I wasn't counting on him to come up with heroics when we went to the penalty shootout in Hampden in April. And then, I mean, I guess the other major one, like you said, Miofsky went. We always knew Miofsky was going. Yeah. He was destined for far bigger things than Scottish football. I'm delighted for him that he got the move to Girona, and I do believe that in time he'll be a success there. Another one that's notable is, I guess, Connor Bannon, who we had high hopes for. Noticed how low down in the pecking order he'd be when we brought in Hilton and Nielsen and Palaversa, and Dante Polvara comes back in, and he had to go and find some football playing for a 10-year-old club down in Glasgow.
Connor Bannon was always somebody I was told was good. I don't know. It's unfair to judge him on Aberdeen over the last 2 years because he's had some good players who have kind of struggled the past couple of years. Jamie McGrath being a perfect example. Jamie McGrath's I think a really, really exciting player. We'll come to him in a minute, but I think he's looking like the player he should be just now. Yeah. But as you see, kind of revolving manager, all these players coming in and players leaving. He kind of got lost in it. And I would say Connor Bannon, for me, no for you, for me, because Celtic were linked with him a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I would watch him and I'm going, I'm not seeing anything that makes me think, yeah, this is it. Do you know, now like the way John McGinn appeared and just fucking blew us all away? I wasn't seeing that from him. I'm still not seeing that personally, but I'm biased as hell. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying this to be flippant over the fact that he signed for Rangers. I genuinely do mean this. If Connor Bannon was still at Aberdeen, for me, he'd be the sixth choice centre midfield. Right. He's no major loss at all. A guy with a lot of potential. To be fair, I mean, struggled because we played under Robson, a style of football that didn't involve small, talented midfielders who wanted to pass the ball. He had a lot of neck muscle exercises, watching the ball fire over his head. And I mean, there was the issue with Jim Goodwin because he shared the same agent as Andrew Considine. Right. So then we couldn't get the extension, and I think that put him out of favour. And then we had the chance to sign Leighton Clarkson, and just like all these things meant that he never got the game time that he probably should have. And in the end, he decided that he wanted to move, and rather than broaden his horizons, he just went to go and play for Rangers. So
once again, you can tell the professional that you are. That's a fantastic segue to jump right into the squad as is. Now, as with all these, I look at who I know. So straight away, the guys we spoke about, every one of them apart from Ambrose, from watching the highlights, have all impressed me. Nicky Devlin has been a smashing player.
Yep.
How he doesn't get more regular time in Scotland, don't know. Jamie McGrath is looking like the player I thought he always could and should be, even doing it for Ireland just recently. Pat Habib Gueye, a guy that I knew nothing about. He's looking like a superstar after being sent out on loan last season. Still no Duke. Is that done?
No, Duke's back in the team.
So he's back in. I mean, he only played one time.
Duke was welcomed back in just after the window shut. Came back, apologised for his behaviour. I think the club handled it perfectly. We made a statement. The language from all three people involved, being Burrows, Alan Burrows, our chief executive, Jimmy Tleen, and Duke himself, all made it very clear where the blame lay in this situation, and it was very much at Duke's feet. And Jimmy Tleen, because of the way that he's communicated and brought this kind of family all-for-one mentality back into Aberdeen, I don't think many managers could have done what he's done in bringing Duke back and not be met with huge hostility. But I think we all acknowledge that it will have been a decision taken by Tleen, his coaching staff, and the senior players, if not all of the players, to welcome Duke back into the fold.
What was the script with Duke? Because obviously for the outside, we just kind of seen that he just stopped turning up. And obviously, after a very, very impressive first season, he was overshadowed by Miofsky. It was interesting. Me and you spoke 2 years ago at the start of the season, and I couldn't believe that Miofsky had scored more goals and done more assists than Duke, because Duke was getting every headline in the world, and Miofsky was kind of under that radar. So, what is it the case of? It's no work for him this second season, so he's kind of trying to push out, or
it's a long story. The way that was put across to us by his agent at the beginning of the summer when he first went AWOL is that he wasn't happy with where he was playing. He was playing out wide a lot rather than playing through the middle with Miofsky, as he did at that point when you're talking about the huge success he was having.
Yeah.
The difference there is that even though Duke was grabbing all the headlines, Miofsky was undeniably still contributing to the team and making a lot of his goals. And when it went the other way, Duke just wasn't reciprocating that. There was a rumor that he refused to play a game in January.
Wow.
And basically marched into Robson's office demanding that he get a move away. I think young boys in Switzerland were being linked with him. Where there wasn't a fee that was agreeable, and he had to stay. And then season kind of pans out, remains frustrated, and clearly under the advisement of his agent, no doubt, but he still have to take personal responsibility. When we got back for pre-season, the line was he was injured. That's why he couldn't join the squad in Portugal for our pre-season tour. And then as we're leading into the first game of the season with Queen of the South in the League Cup, I think Jimmy Delaney just made the announcement that he hasn't returned. Yeah. Clearly just trying to force a move, like you say, out of the club. I think this is maybe something that happens perhaps on the continent more than it does in the UK. And his agent has a bit of a track record of this. He's the same agent as Fabio Silva, who was at Rangers last season. And you see the way that guy's career has panned out. He's not necessarily also being given the best advice. So yeah, it's kind of that's how it's played out. And they obviously thought they'd force a move, but no club was forthcoming, quite simply. And you'll know this. Clubs, when they are involved in recruitment, they look at all the data. They'll do their scouts. They'll, reel over the footage, but also they look for character references. People want to know what their kind of character they're bringing to the dressing room. And if you're talking about a guy who's literally just gone AWOL,
down tools,
what do you have to say for it? And that's the way it played out. I entirely expected after the window shut and he was still an Aberdeen player that one day we'll get the statement, 2 lines, we wish him well in his future endeavours. But then, it came out. He'd been welcomed back. And, the rest is history. Now he's got a chance to came on as a sub against Hearts in our last game and created the winning goal.
That's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, I'm trying to think there. You're saying, I think Mark Viduka comes straight to my head in terms of we had the fucking tube turns up, buggers off, but then when he comes back, he fucking sticks it in and he's a fucking wonder player. So the good thing with Duke is you know how good he is.
Well, that's just it. It was this kind of ironic thing that he's left because of how frustrated he was playing under Robson and he who shall not be named. And you're looking at the Jimmy Delaney team and thinking, well, Miofsky's going. There's going to be a place in that team, and this is a perfect team for the way that Duke plays. It's just a shame that, like I say, he made a series of very bad choices. Just the polar opposite to how Bojan Miofsky conducted himself when Miofsky's looking at this career-changing, life-changing move, and he was a model professional, turning up, still playing games in the League Cup when he's got this move to a Champions League team on his horizon.
I do wonder if that's based on Duke's coming for Benfica, you know what I mean? And he's kind of, and I dare say at Benfica, he's still, all these young guys are all treated like superstars because what they can, whereas, as I say, you're coming from the Slovakian league, it's a wee bit different, you know what I mean? You're like, you know how good you've got it.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Right, so squad-wise, like I say, another guy who stands out, you brought him up earlier on, Leighton Clarkson. He looks like he's ready to shine. He looks like he's ready to take a jersey. Certainly from watching the highlights, he's somebody. He arrives in the box late. He's grabbing the goals. He's running the midfield. I mean, that was a guy, when you signed him, that was the guy you thought you were getting at.
Yeah. Technically, just an unbelievable footballer. And much like Connor Barron, but almost to a greater extent, because Leighton Clarkson was obviously, we spent a decent chunk of change on him and convinced him, when I'm pretty sure that yourselves and perhaps even Rangers were sniffing about when we were trying to get him on a permanent from Liverpool, and to pull it off, it was just an incredible piece of business. And then you're watching the ball, like I say, sail over this guy's head, chasing second balls, and like, what the hell are we doing here? This guy is, with the ball, can create chances. He can score goals from distance. He's unbelievable from set pieces. Just, a huge waste of his talent last season. Thankfully, Jimmy Clean's come in, identified what he can do, is not playing him in the centre midfield role as such, has kind of earmarked the number 10 role. So he doesn't have to get involved in the donkey work anymore. He can just focus on being the creative maverick player that he is. And we're seeing, it's a shame because he started really well. He then picked up a shoulder injury in, I think, the last game of the League Cup group stage. So we missed him for a little bit of time there, but now he's back and he's looking good. Yeah.
It reminds me, you talk about that, it reminds me, I was, when I spoke to the Hearts guys recently, and I'm watching Hearts, and they've got Stephen Naismith, and they go in by Jan Danda, who's a fantastic football player, and they're just lumping the ball around. I mean, I'm like, what's the fucking point in signing this guy now?
Makes absolutely no sense, does it?
So who else in the squad is sticking out? Obviously, Mitov's been a wonder signing. He, well, again, you can tell me, this is me thinking Aberdeen goalies are good. I don't know, I've got a weird affection here, know what I mean? But like, everything I'm watching, he looks like a mega important player. Your boy Nelson in midfield's looking the part. I mean, it just looks like a totally balanced team now.
It does. It's just, there's so much to like about it now. With Mitov, I'll be brutally honest, when I watched him play for St. Johnstone versus Aberdeen, I never quite saw what people were talking about.
Right, okay.
He never really, I don't think he really ever delivered as such. And when, I mean, this is just snobbishness on my part, but signing players from St. Johnstone isn't necessarily hugely exciting to me.
Of course.
So when Mitov comes in, he had a relatively easy time of it in the group stage games, but then the league games started him coming in, and he's made some, I mean, this penalty save against Ross County up in Dingwall, that told me, okay, now we're talking. Now we've got a serious goalkeeper on our hands, like we did with Joe Lewis in the first 5 years that we had him. A guy that you can look at, and in the same way as when Peter Schmeichel played for Man United, you can look at this guy and say, well, there's a number of points at the end of this season that we're going to be able to attribute to Dimitar Mitov.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And unlike Belarus, seems to embrace the challenge, embrace the pressure, and he's created an amazing connection with the fans already. Right. And it's just performing at a very high standard. So much so that when he makes a mistake like he did against Hearts, he's like, what's happened here? I mean, this guy's unbelievable. Oh, he is human after all, I guess. Okay, fair enough. And what's great about that is, he's now cemented his place as the goalkeeper of Bulgaria. And he's young enough to know that this is a chance to shine and, like Miovski, perhaps, get himself a move elsewhere if he plays at a high standard here. But a guy looks to be loving it, embracing life in Aberdeen, which is always great to see. Sivert Heltman Nielsen, my God. I love this guy so much. So I think I mentioned to you, my partner's is from Norway. So in the summer, we were on holiday there, and the Nielsen deal was announced when I was in Oslo, and I was talking to a few family members who are majorly into football, supporting Rosenborg, and they mentioned to me that Sivert Heltman Nielsen, as a player, direct quote, he's a good player, but he's got an absolutely psychotic desire to win football games. And that is exactly what we need in this club for so long. I was like, oh my God, this guy sounds perfect. it was mentioned to us by a Norwegian journalist when we spoke about him, because we always try and do our research on new players, especially when they come from abroad. And he likened him to Scott Brown, particularly later on in Scott Brown's career at Celtic, when there's nothing really flashy about what he does. He just keeps the ball moving. He's a real leader on the pitch, and he's got this way of having relationships with referees where he's probably committed about 100 fouls in the game, and yet never is in any danger of getting sent off. And I've seen some of the instances of that against Motherwell. His fouls all had a purpose to them. They're cynical, they're nasty, but they're also not getting bookings. And Aberdeen have always been too nice for my liking. So to have someone like him...
I'm thinking back, what was the name of the big boy with the beard? Lee Richardson? Was it Lee Richardson?
Oh, Lee Richardson, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Before my time, Lee Richardson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dirty bastard. I loved him, man.
I've had to contend with,
Mickey Paper, there was another man. Except for he did get sent off. Again,
I take your point. Yeah, we've had a couple in isolation. But as a group, I mean, the game against Hearts at the very end, when Shanklin tries to noise at Mitov, and Mitov's in his face, and then Helena Nielsen's laughing in his face also at the same time. We've got some street fighters on the team now, and guys who drive standards, and that's what we've needed for so long now.
I always like it when a manager comes in with somebody, generally somebody with a bit of age about them, somebody he's worked with, and somebody he can trust. He's basically, boom, you're on the pitch, you're my guy on the pitch. I mean, because I was looking, and I was like 33-year-old, 300 grand. In Scotland, 300 grand is quite a bit of change, you know what I mean? Yeah. And for a 33-year-old, and fuck, I remember a famous 33-year-old Joy Selleck for fucking 300 grand. But so who else am I missing? I mean, like I was saying, Pape, Habib.
Pape Habib, yeah, my word. We wouldn't have talked about him in April, I don't think, because he was on loan in Norway at the time. And at that point, it wouldn't have shocked me at all if in June, July, it was just quietly announced that we'd signed. There was an arrangement made that he would go to Kristiansand on a permanent contract. Comes back after our preseason tour, kept playing in Norway up until about July, comes back in, and just a different animal. I think the time in Norway was also good for him because he just got some minutes under his belt and got a few goals. When he came to Aberdeen, we talked about Duke a minute ago, he, I think, went on strike with his club in Belgium also to force a move. So in that case, good on you, Pape. Not so good on you, Duke. It comes in.
Football fan.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll never deny that. He comes in, Barry Robson. The way that Pape Gay frames it is Robson comes in and tells him he's going to be an essential part of the team. We need you coming to Aberdeen. And I think the longest he ever played on the pitch from one spell would have been 45 minutes in Helsinki. And just never got going. And I think when you're talking about a guy like that who's from Senegal, has no family, no connections in Aberdeen, and the football's not working out for him, I think he became a quite lonely guy, and just wasn't enjoying his time in Aberdeen. Since he's come back in, it feels like it's just a completely different atmosphere. And that comes down to a manager who's got a bit of faith in you, giving clear directions. And it feels like this group of players now, it feels more supportive of one another. And Pape's recognized that, and he's been given his chance. Do I think this is going to last? I'm not necessarily sure. But while he's been given his opportunity, he's taken it. 6 goals in the league, and unfortunately suffered a quad injury, so he'll be out until about January time now. But that's just another example of what Jimmy Tullian has been able to do with these guys who, like you say, were completely out of the picture only a few months ago. And I think that talks about Jimmy Tullian's man management.
Yeah, wild. Right, okay, we'll kick into this season so far, and we'll have a good wee natter about the games. So no Europe this time. Back to the League Cup groups for you. Drawn with Queen of the South, East Kilbride, Aberdeen the bottom. 4 wins from 4, scoring 15 and conceding 1. Setting up a second round home tie to Queen's Park. A late 1-0 win takes you through the quarters. And a smashing of Spartans again at home, setting up the semi-final tie on the 2nd of November at Hampden against Celtic. We'll chip in about that later as well. League-wise, opening day, 2-1 win away to St Johnstone was followed by a great 3-1 win over St Mirren at Pittodrie. A 2-0 win over Killie at home was followed by another clean sheet and a last-gasp late win away to Ross County. Motherwell and Dundee up next, both going down 2-1. And then the last game and another late show, a 3-2 win against 10-man Hearts that leaves Aberdeen sitting in second place in the table. 7 games played, 7 wins, 15 scored, 6 conceded, 9 goal difference, 21 points on board, same as Celtic in first and 5 points ahead of Rangers in third. Now, as always, I will freely admit I went and watched all the highlights of your games. I don't think I've watched a full match of any of them. So from looking at your games, this is my summary of it. So you're playing this 4-2-3-1. Defence looks totally settled. I mean, I think there's only a couple of games where you've kind of shaken it up for whatever reason. But I think this is a game from me because you maybe get the draw. You get the win on the last kick of the ball. And like the Ross County game is a VAR fucking nightmare, isn't it? I mean, fucking VAR's going to do Wally that day. but your goal is saved and then you've scored the 96-minute winner.
Yep.
It's a team, right? And however, I've heard all these people on phone-ins kind of going, they've not been tested. They won the command at the man sent half. But honestly, for everything I'm seeing, the goalkeeper is allowing your defence to be confident in themselves, which then allows you guys to push forward. The attacking play seems, I mean, even there's goals for everywhere. And it's impressive to see. I mean, the Hearts game, for the highlights I watched, looked like a belter of a game. What was the other one? The St Johnstone looked like a belter of a game. And then even if you go back to the League Cup games, guys like Shaden Morris are coming in and offering something and looking like players. I mean, it must be exciting times, and as people say, fucking enjoy it, man. Fuck's sake, you've had enough shit, man. I mean,
that's exactly what I've been trying to tell people over the last couple of months on our show, especially. Yeah, I mean, I'm as much of a critic as anyone, but we've had to eat a lot of shite over the past 3 seasons, and as I said, there's nothing we can do about the way the fixture list has played out. And I would dare say that last season we only played one half-decent team domestically all season as well, and we still ended up in the bottom 6. So we've beaten St Mirren, Kilmarnock and Hearts, who were 3 of the teams who qualified for Europe off the back of their performances last season. Dundee were a good team. Dingwall, as you know from Celtic's last game, is not an easy place to go either. So come away with 7 wins. I mean, there's generally nothing more you can ask. And what I'm so enthused about is that I know this team has still got room to grow. We're still nowhere near the finished article, but the fact that we're coming through these games and not necessarily playing the best football yet, but in the big moments, our players are coming up, and there's no better example than what you just mentioned at Dingwall, where Mitov makes that incredible save, and then Kevin Nisbet gets his first goal for Aberdeen.
I mean, bringing Kevin Nisbet in at that point, for him to then pop up and score that goal. Like I say, it's a shame for Kevin Nisbet because I was a massive fan of him to the point I thought Celtic should have signed him. The Millwall thing kind of then, what you talking about, your clown. But I've no doubt he'll come back up here and he'll get himself going again and he'll look like a player again. I think the fact that you have avoided a lot of injuries, I mean, you've just brought up a couple there, the Clarkson and the Gay one, but you've avoided them in major places.
Yep.
But everybody kind of looks like, it comes back to your original point, you look like a team.
Yeah.
You look like a team, and that's not always been the case for Aberdeen.
It's one of the very first things Jimmy Clean said. It's not about me. It's not about any individual player. It's not about the chairman or anyone else. It's about the entire club. It's about the club and the city coming together as one to make us a force once again. And you see it. You're talking about players who've come together. Slobodan Rubišić and Dimitar Mitov appear to be best pals immediately, as well as Palaversa. You're talking about Papi Gay coming into this relatively, for him, new dressing room, given that he was still in Norway until July, and feeling like there's a completely different support system in place for these players. And go with someone like Kevin Nisbet again, who, like you say, hasn't had a great time of it at Millwall. Don't think Millwall was the right fit for him, but that's neither here nor there. Gets an opportunity to come up to one of the biggest clubs in Scotland, and almost kickstart his career, and he's done well taking it. There's a lot to be said for players who've got a point to prove, and we've got players like that who Shaden Morty just mentioned. Vinny Bajowan's back in the setup. Duke obviously is had some regrettable decisions in the summer and now has a point to prove. Slobodan Rubezic, who people were he was a divisive figure amongst Aberdeen player fans last season, has come onto a game looking like the class international player that we were said he could be. But the whole thing, like you just say there, it is teamwork. And when you've got that and the going gets tough, like it did against Hearts, like it did
against Dundee.
Dundee looked like I was going to also say it at Dens Park as well, when they peg us back and we stuck at it and kept in there. It makes sense that people are going to make more of an effort to run for their teammate when there's a genuine bond. And I think that's also something that Jimmy Tilleen has made imperative, because we know in Scotland, we're not going to sign the best players, and sometimes games are going to come down to who wants it more. And right now, you can't accuse Aberdeen of not wanting the absolute best.
I do think there's a lot to be said about a new manager coming in and no flooding the team. Basically saying to a lot of the squad that are there, I believe in you, you are better than that. Do you know what I mean? And getting rid of kind of whatever. This is a wee squad. Like you said, you would like to see additions now. Now that you've kind of got the buy-in for guys getting the addition now, rather than, as I remember, Goodwin came in and he just flooded the team.
It was like 15 out, 11
exactly.
in, like that, and 9 of them were wingers. One was Tony Stewart.
Oh, jeez, even I have a laugh every time I hear his name, man.
Yeah, like I said to you, I didn't expect the huge turnaround just because we've spent so much money. We've burned through so much of this money in the last 3 seasons. We were definitely relying on the Miofsky money, which didn't come until much later in the window. We were probably banking on Lewis Ferguson, who got the injury, so wasn't moving anywhere. I've got this part of my mind that thinks that Lewis Ferguson should be a Bologna lifer now, and we won't see a penny for him, given how loved he is there. And the thing about Jimmy Tilleen is he said that he doesn't want to use the loan market all that much. He doesn't want to bring in players just to fill a space, just in case. And every player he brought in, again, with the exception of Peter Rambos, who I think was a little bit of a punt based on the way that the Scandinavian market works quite often, where they bring players from Africa who come through these academies and they can be relatively cost-effective players. And Peter Ambros has scored more goals in the Hungarian league in that last season than Miofsky had.
Right, okay.
When the season prior to when he comes to Aberdeen. So there was a reason to believe that he could, translate that to Scottish football. It's not worked so far. But other than that, Mitov.
It's still mega early. I think anybody come to Scotland they've got a bit of settling to do. If guys come in and hit the ground, you kind of go, fair fucks to you. But I just think Scotland's quite a mad place to come in. I really do. You know what I mean?
It's a mad place to come in, and especially when you're getting 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here. You wish there's a reserve league so you could just get up to speed with the way the game works here.
But that was a big thing we owe at Celtic. See if you go and look at O's goal per minute ratio, it was a belting. You know what I mean? He just never ever got a game.
No, absolutely. He did against Aberdeen. Like many players, I think he scored more against us than anyone else. But anyway,
Aberdeen, Hibs, and St Mirren, I think, and Hearts. It was like 3 or 4 teams, and they never scored against. I think they scored like 18 goals. They only scored against 3 or 4 teams. But
good times, good times. But every player, Mitov, but like I say, Mitov comes in, not missed a game. Malloy, not missed a game. Helena Nielsen, integral. Topi Keskinen up front, essential. It looks like such a dangerous player. We're now getting Antti Palaversa back team. It's genuine quality that he's brought in, and that's why we're talking about a team that's won 7 out of 7.
Exactly. Right, so let's get on to it then. So we've got a game a week on. No, it's not a week. It's a Saturday. So we played 4 times last season, right? So there was a 3-1 first meeting at Pittodrie. 6-0 then that one each game that we spoke about, then the 3-3 game and in the cup, right? So
Yes.
all three of them decent, almost level games, 6-0 aside, obviously.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's not really worth talking about them because of the change in manager. So I've got to hear what has changed since Taylor came in, confidence, but we've done that as well. But now, talking with coming to Celtic Park in mind, how do you think you will approach the game? And in my opinion, before you crack on, I can't see him changing, but that's based on the fact he's no changed in his games. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I don't think we're going to dramatically change anything. I don't think we're going to change our shape entirely. One, I mean, it was such a strange thing, the way that Jimmy Tilleen came into Aberdeen, because like you said, he agrees the deal in April, it's announced, and then he doesn't come until the middle of June. He still sees out his time at Elfsborg until the time was such agreed by the clubs that he would come to Aberdeen. So in that time, we're kind of like watching and looking out for Elfsborg results, just with a lot of curiosity how they're doing. And one thing you picked up on was there were games with Malmo and some of the bigger teams in Sweden where you look at the stats and sometimes Elfsborg would have less than 30% possession and come away with a 3-0 win. And you're just thinking, like, how the hell has that happened? So what he's obviously in his time at Elfsborg done is being able to create a team where when they're going away from home, they can sit in, they can contain, and then they can hit on the break. And he did that very effectively, and that's one of the key factors in how he overachieved with Elfsborg and obviously earned the move to Aberdeen. We kind of do that right now. We are prepared to sit and break, but we also do like to press high up the pitch. We have a lot of, I wouldn't say there's any player in the team I would say is a passenger from a defensive perspective. So we do like to press, and I hope that we do that because I think that's the way to do things. I think we've come to Celtic Park so many times and just sat back, said our prayers, and hoped for the best. And even though we're looking good from a defensive perspective, we have still conceded some daft goals. And I don't think we're good enough to just sit in and contain Celtic for 90 minutes. And also, I think we're a better team going forward than we are defensive right now. And I think we can pose a threat. I know Celtic have only conceded one goal in the league, which I was a little bit astonished to learn. But obviously, Ross County gave you a game. Falkirk gave you a little bit of a scare in the League Cup there. And the team in Germany with the emblem behind you scored one or two in a European game. So I think there's ways to get at Celtic. I mean, is Carter Vickers likely to play?
Do you know what? I don't think so. The talk was he should be back, but I've not heard either or.
So it's likely going to be Scales and the boy Trusty.
Yeah.
And what, Johnson, and then Taylor's injured as well, isn't he?
Johnson Taylor's injured, so the boy Valley will play.
Yeah.
The Spanish fullback.
And I'll acknowledge, I think Kasper Schmeichel is a really shrewd piece of business in replacing Joe Hart.
Yeah.
And, your centre midfield players, Callum McGregor has been the scourge of Aberdeen for most of his career. The boy Kuhn's come on to a really good game this season, hasn't he? Yeah. Kyogo looks a bit back to his normal self, and Maeda's absolutely rapid. We know what he's going to bring. So it's going to be a huge test. We're going to learn so much about our team, win, lose, or draw in this game. The flip side of the coin, and Graham, one of the lads on our show, made the point after we beat Hearts of like, we've given ourselves such a nice cushion over the rest of our competition. Why not, on this occasion, go to Celtic Park and bring what we can do? We've got talented players in Topi Keskinen, Jamie McGrath, Palaversa, Hilton and Nielsen, Graham Shane. They're all goal threats in some way, shape, or form. Mackenzie and Devlin have been unbelievable, and that's why they've earned their Scotland call-ups. So why not? It's not, I don't like to use the word free hit, because I don't believe in that. But we've given ourselves, like, let's say, that cushion in the league to go and down you and take you on and see what we're all about.
Yep, I agree with you. I mean, like, obviously, our last two results, or last two performances have been pretty poor. That Ross County game was howling, absolutely howling, and and the German team, as you spoke about. That was uber howling. But no, it's interesting because, like I say, you look like a team. You don't look like one. How many times have we seen new managers come in and they're all out attack and everybody's talking about them, they're brilliant, and then they go to Ibrox, they go to Selhurst Park, totally capitulate. I just can't see that for you guys. I hope it does, but I just can't see it. And I can see a really, really good football game, to be honest. That's what I'm expecting. And I think it's going to set up the semi-final. Whatever way it goes, I think it's going to set up a semi-final to be a fucking blockbuster, man. I think it's going to be class.
When we met, we were previewing the semi-final last season, and Aberdeen were in absolute disarray, both on the pitch and off the pitch. We are a completely different animal now, and I genuinely, for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to Aberdeen going to Celtic Park and seeing what happens. Our record against you is nothing short of horrendous, historically. Like, we won 24 times in the league, and I can think of 3 of them off the top of my head, which is scary. A game where David Drillich burst past Paul Lambert under Steve Patterson in the most makeshift of makeshift teams. The night when Pasquinelli took the ball off David Marshall and rolled into his net. And then when Andy Constant in 2018 scored the winning goal to get us second place on the last day of the season. Yeah. Since then, I mean, like I say, we've taken some absolute scuddings off you, especially that 6-0 win, that 6-0 defeat, last season. I don't expect that at all. I think we'll go down, be competitive. If you're asking me to predict the team, I imagine the defense will be as it is. Mitov, Devlin, Rubezic, Malloy, and McKenzie. I think we'll go with a flat 3 in front. Shinnie, Hilton and Nielsen, and Palaversa. And drop Leighton Clarkson, just because Palaversa brings a little bit more physicality. And then we'll have Keskinen and McGrath wide, with Esther Sokler up front, just because Esther, I think, will be he's the best form of defense from attack. And he'll run all game. He's got energy. He can hold the ball up. And if we're talking 60, 70 minutes and it's still all square, we can bring on Clarkson, Duke, Kevin Nisbet. We've got some strength and depth now. So, yeah, I think there's every chance we can come and get a result.
Yeah, by the way, what a fucking turnaround in a few months, man.
Just wait until Sunday.
Right, so we spoke there about the semi-final as well. Are you going to the semi-final?
I am, yeah.
Last time I asked you this, you said no.
I was playing a gig in Inverness the night before. Yeah. We were playing a gig in Glasgow actually on the same night, so I did listen to it on the radio, and just thinking how unbelievable the game sounded from the car stereo. And then when I went to penalties, like, oh no, Joe Hart's taking the winning penalty. Don't let Joe Hart score the winning penalty. I hit the post for fucking tits. Yes. Kellerus, why are you down with cramp? Get up, you. What a game, man. What a game.
Aye. So the semi-final, bloody hell. Like I say, I can see this one at the weekend being really tight, right? I still think we'll kind of edge it, being at home. That is a big thing, I think. But it then throws up. I think the semi-final is going to be mega tough for Celtic, mega tough. And like I say, you hate the word. It's not a free hit, but if ever there's a time to go for it, fuck it. You know what I mean? It's just I can imagine it being a really good. I would rather Rangers go Aberdeen, to be perfectly honest.
I was waiting for Crisis United in the other leg. Can't remember anymore. Oh, it's Motherwell, isn't it? United got pumped, didn't they? Of course they did. I mean, you weren't necessarily my first choice of opponent. Like you said, McInnes had so many hits at Celtic in his time, and the one time that we, for me, deserved to win was the cup final, where we went toe-to-toe with you and took the game to you. We've tried being with a low defensive block. We tried that man marking thing where literally like Shea Logan would follow who used to have Patrick Roberts all over the pitch, no matter where he went, and vice versa. Constantly would follow James Forrest wherever he went to score again. Aberdeen fans, like we talked about this last season with the Rangers final, like we don't want to go to these places and
there's no point. Yeah.
Just hope for the best. It's not going to work usually because you're going to have the lion's share of the ball, and chances are, a refereeing decision might go your way.
I was waiting for
it. VAR goes down, avoids Todd Cantwell punching one of our players, or Ryan Kent, whoever it was. Like you say, I mean, we just want to have a positive intent and try and win these games rather than having your manager come out afterwards and say, well, we're just little Aberdeen and we don't have the right to take the game to these players.
Gavin, man, it's really, it's good to speak to somebody on these who are enthused about their team and encouraged by their team and that, because, you know what I mean? I want Celtic to win everything, right? I honestly do. But I want a competitive league. I want us to be. I mean, I grew up, Aberdeen was a cunt of place to go to. And Aberdeen would regularly come down the road and give us a sore face. And if we could get Scottish football to a point where you guys are, if Hearts get their finger out and fucking sort out what they're doing, do you know what I mean? Hibs and all. And like, it's just, it's, I want it to be where you guys are playing Rangers and I'm sitting honestly going, I reckon Aberdeen will beat him. You know what I mean? That's what the days are kind of. I still want Celtic win, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But I think genuinely we do all want a more competitive league, don't we? And we want someone to come along and, rock the apple cart. And Hearts' situation right now is I have mixed feelings because obviously it's hilarious how bad they are. given how proud they were last season and how they were always talking about how much better Shanklin was than Miofsky, which was obviously not true. But it is kind of bittersweet because I do look at it and I think like early days, but like a strong Aberdeen team in this league, put a strong Hearts team in this league, the way Rangers are right now, I genuinely think you could have been talking about a world where Rangers don't finish in the top three. And just imagine what that would do to Scottish football. But as it is, I guess we're just gonna have to carry the baton alone because Hearts are going to be in the championship next season.
If we go back to that thing, they've not been tested. So fuck if you've not been tested. See, the point is, if you guys go and beat everybody else in the league for the remainder of the season, you're going to be in the fucking title. You know, you're going to be in it. That's the facts. So just do that, and then you get results. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know my point anyway, but so I'm not going to ask you for a prediction because I'm a wee bit fear.
I'll gladly give you a prediction.
Right, give me a prediction then.
Oh, I'm going with my heart and going with my head, and I'm going to tell you what I said on our podcast. It'll be 3-0 Aberdeen.
Say that again.
It's going to be 3-0 Aberdeen.
3-0.
Nay bother.
Right, okay.
Topi Keskinen, Jamie McGrath, and Slobodan Rubezic.
Right, all right. So we'll just finish off usual, right? So what's the hope for the season ahead? Now, you're encouraged so far. What is the hope, the realistic hope?
Oh, let's not bring realism into this conversation. We're on cloud nine right now. I think the minimum I'll accept is a treble.
The treble, knock the treble right there.
100% record the entire way through the season. Thank you very much.
An invincible treble. The next thing fucking dog.
Not even invincible, an all-winning, all-conquering treble. Failing that, given where we came from, given how much work we had to do, given the challenge we have had to face, which people often like to overlook, the Duke situation, the injuries to Clarkson, Pulvara, Gay, Miofsky, the turnaround, where we were when we had that clown from Cornwall last season. The progress already has been astonishing. I look forward to seeing what we do in January if we bring in any more players, and I want to be back in Europe next season. Brilliant. So third place and a Scottish Cup will do me, but right now we're invincible. We're the only team in Europe with a 100% record.
I love it, mate. I love it.
So give me a league title.
Right, okay. But right, before I let you go, as always, tell the people where the people can listen to your podcast, where they can follow you on social media.
You can find us on the socials on Twitter and Instagram. Just search ABZ Podcast. You'll find us. You'll find lots of posts trolling Hearts fans usually. And when it comes to where we can find us there's on all the major streaming services you can think of, all the good ones and even some bad ones.
Well, Gavin, as always, mate, outstanding. Thank you very much for taking your time and speaking to me. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll finish again.
Thank you very much.
Hope your team gets pumped to the weekend. But I really do wish you a good season. I hope you keep on fucking trucking, man. Honest to God.
The thing is, I know that you're being so sincere when you say that, and I just can't say the same thing.
I hope
that Atalanta go one better than Dortmund did.
Oh my God, that's horrible. Right, Gavin, thank you very much, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Glorious dawns, victorious dawns, together we'll make history. Straight to the top, not gonna stop, we're the mighty AFC.